This here is a disgusting laptop. Look at it, it has rubber corners. Oh, because it's made for school children, have a tendency of dropping stuff. Oh, well, oh yeah, that's true. Let's just throw it at the wall to show the protection of these corners. I didn't really think that far. Good thing I have multiple of these. So yes, this is a laptop. But what makes it a bad laptop? Because it's used by children? Or the fact it's using cheap parts and sub-high quality because it's needed for bulk for schools? It could be that, or it could be the rubber corners. It's them. Okay, fine, I'll stop talking about the corners and actually talk about the main device. This here is a ThinkPad X131E. I have talked about this computer before, but I was mainly talking about the OS, not just the device. So, yeah, the device. The CPU is Intel. That sounds nice. And it's a Celeron. That sounds not nice. And it's a 3rd gen Celeron? Man. And, oh, what's this? Some models of the same laptop have a 3rd generation i3 that's almost 30% better in some benchmarks, have more threads, even have more cache. Man, I wish I got a different model. There's a Chrome OS version. Okay, I guess it's not that bad. Anyways, there's 4GB of RAM here, which is like what, a gumstick worth of RAM? But it's still RAM. But here's the thing, open this, look here, it's an empty slot, ready for activities. I'll put my almonds here. So we can add another stick of RAM. I'm just gonna add a 4GB stick. Is 8GB good for today? No, but this device is very weak, so I don't think it really matters. Oh, yeah, what else is there to talk about this computer? There's no dedicated GPU. I feel like you could figure that one out. So yes, we are using integrated graphics on a 3rd gen chip, and it's a mobile chip. Why don't we have a look at the GPU specs then? Oh, all it says on the spec sheet is base clock is 350 and it can boost to 1 GHz. Where are the shader units, TMUs, and you know, just the specs? Oh wait, there's actually a name here. GPU Intel HD graphics for 3rd generation Intel processors. Very helpful, as if you search this up, it shows desktop CPUs. That's not the one we have, I think. I guess we'll have to do some tests on the computer later. Anyways, what else is there to this computer? There are some ports like USB 3, 2, Ethernet, SD card slot, and a removable battery. That's kind of interesting. So you can pack multiple of these batteries just in case you don't have access to a charge or something. Also, this means you can upgrade the capacity of the cells without, you know, opening up the system and just doing, you know, replacing the battery. That's just cool. Oh, and I guess there is a 128GB SSD here, so yeah. Let's read a datasheet. Uncompromised performance. Okay, we should probably just use the device and stop looking at unnecessary things. Press enter to change boot menu. Startup interrupt menu. Which one? We should just do the first one, which is BIOS. Oh wait, there's a password for the BIOS. Oh no. Oh wait, we can just remove the CMOS battery. Correct? Actually no, it's one of those computers that doesn't get affected like that. But how do I know the password then? I don't fully remember how I did it, but you need to short some pins directly on the BIOS chip. I don't know why it's like this, I know. And somehow it worked. So yes, I do know the BIOS password. It looks like an old BIOS to me with a basic grey background and blue and black text. So what is this text anyway? It's like information about the computer. But hey, look at that, we get a Windows license for free. Not like I was going to pay for Windows anyway. Oh, here's the main part, the config part. We can configure like 6 things. Let's have a look at them anyway. Wake on LAN, that's actually a cool feature. It would be really useful for a server, but like who's hosting a server on such a low-end device? Oh right. Select whenever to load the Ethernet LAN option ROM. What? Maybe I'm the idiot, but Ethernet has ROM? I don't get it. There's radios in my computer? What is WiMAX? Oh right. So WiMAX is like Wi-Fi but for longer ranges? Why would you want to turn this off for? Okay, this is boring. Like, there is only like, what, 2 things interesting about the BIOS. And it's swapping the FN key with the control key. Because for some reason the FN key is in the leftist position. And like every other keyboard had control there. I don't know why it's like this, which means software fixes hardware, I guess. Oh, and the other one would be boot display device. Because it lets me record the BIOS, which is cool. Anyways, let's get rid of the BIOS and get to the operating. What is this? F10 to diagnose hardware? Why not? Whoa, look at all these diagnoses for the hardware. Which one should we do first? Oh, that makes it a little bit easier. I left this on for like 2 hours and the diagnosis was still doing a memory something. But hey, isn't it impressive that a device like this has such a robust system? Some premium devices don't come with these types of tools. But I do guess premium devices don't have BIOS that look like this. So yeah. Well, we know the hardware is fine. Which OS? So all the documentation here has been talking about Windows 7. But there's a sticker here that says Windows 8. I'll use Windows 7. Not to get in depth with, you know, installing Windows 7, but I'm using a Ventoy hard drive. Yes, not a USB stick. Anyways, I'm using Ventoy and that's kinda it. Let's see if there's anything interesting, weird, or something I can comment on in a funny voice. Well, there must be something funny! See? What about this? Oh, it's just rebooting to finish the install. Come on, something please funny happen. I made the password 123. What is that? That's pretty funny. Oh yeah, I forgot this was about a computer. It's Windows 7 without any graphics driver, as you can see. Oh, and no networking. I did try Ethernet, but it didn't work either. My idea here is to install or just get network drivers to work, because Windows should install update/drivers in the background, right? So here's another point for Lenovo. The drivers for this computer are still hosted, which is pretty neat. But just before all of that, let's see the performance of this computer. So a 1? That's a pretty small number. Why is this the case? Calculations per second is 5? That seems incorrect. 7.5 on memory per second. Desktop performance for Aero, which is like the see-through effect on the title bar. Well, yeah, it's a 0. I think this might be the case because we have 0 hardware acceleration, which is also why gaming graphics is a 1. And I don't know how this works, but for some reason, I got a 7 on the speed, but we're using an SSD. SSDs were so expensive when Windows 7 was out. How is it a 7? Okay, we should probably install drivers. Okay, whatever. Yeah, the website has access to all the drivers, but which one? I'm pretty sure we have a Broadcom network chip here. Oh, it might be this one. I think I remember the device being called something similar to this. Well, what could go wrong? Yep, that is installing some type of driver. And now we have to wait. Hey, look at that, we actually have Wi-Fi. Well, let's connect to the internet and see if it auto-downloads the drivers. Let's go to Device Manager and update from there. Online? Sure. Windows was unable to install. Oh, you're kidding. I thought for some reason that that updates would still work on Windows 7. So on Lenovo's website, you can download the Intel drivers. Well, let's do that. But do we really need drivers to play games? Okay, where are the drivers? Again, it's actually a pretty simple install, and you reboot. Whoa, we actually have Aero, and a 1080p screen, and the game runs a little bit better than before, and without audio skip. Awesome! But we need to put some real stress on the system by playing Peggle. That looks like Peggle to me. The game could run on like half a thread. But yes, Windows 7 on this type of hardware, and it works pretty well. Like yeah, I guess this laptop was made for it. So what now? I don't really want to use Windows 7 as it's not supported. And guess what? I can't even use Windows 10 as well, as it's dead. And then there's Windows 11, but that has a couple of requirements that this computer does not agree with. So there's no official Windows version we could use. Oh yeah, LTSC, Long-Term Servicing Channel. Basically, it's made for businesses, and you know, business software needs to stay as stable as possible, which means using older but more stable software with, you know, less feature updates, but with the same fixes. Basically, this version has less features than home, but it's still secure. I think I'm an individual, not a business. Good question. I have it, and that's all you need to know. So yeah, installation. Anything to comment about on a Windows install? Probably not. Okay, look, I installed it. It's Windows 10. Just without a lot of software. Wow, we removed like 80% of all the software on a base Windows 10 install. Now we have to install all the drivers. But here's a nice thing. We actually don't need to do any of the manual installs, as we already have a network driver. So we can just wait for Windows updates to do all that. Look at that CPU usage, and all we're doing is installing Windows updates. 100%, that won't be good for like doing anything. What could we even do on this computer? A web browser! So, what web browser do we have here? Edge? We could use Firefox as is my preferred browser, but normally Chromium-based browsers are sometimes faster on lower-end devices. Did you know that Edge is based on Chromium? We're not going to use it, but it's still interesting. I'll be using Brave because it's one of the best Chromium browsers, and there's basically no setup to it. Well, let's watch on YouTube. With the 480p res, the CPU usage is about 70%. That's a lot, and it's not even HD. Well, let's try HD then. Yep, we do lose like 2 frames, which is nothing, and we're still using like 70% CPU usage. Interesting. This is using the VP9 codec. Maybe we would get a better time by using H.264, as it's an older codec, but like it's working fine. Okay, let's do 4K at 60 FPS. Huh, it's maxing out the CPU usage, and not playing. Cool. Look at that. We're dropping so many frames. It's not even playing. So yeah. I guess 4K at 60 FPS is not good for a computer that has a 720p panel. Well, maybe it's because it's YouTube. Let's just try to do something simpler, like scroll Wikipedia. Sure. Okay, well, if it could barely do YouTube, but could do Wikipedia, let's try gaming. Is this a good idea? No, but it's interesting. Let's give it some softball games. You know, games that are older, or indie games that don't look that demanding, such as Plants vs Zombies. Wait, just before we do this, let's have a deeper look at the specs. So with GPU Z here, it shows what GPU we have. Can you even call this a GPU? 2 ROPs and 1 TMU. Oh, there is 6 shader units though. Yes, 6. But how does it compare to a GPU that was made 20 years ago? Poor. It was poor, alright? A NVIDIA GeForce 7800 GTX has 24 more TMUs, and has 16 times more ROPs. Oh, and 4 times the amount of shader units. But here's the thing, the clock speeds on the iGPU here are actually faster than the 20-year-old GPU. Good job iGPU by beating a 20-year-old GPU. Oh look at that, they're both using DDR3 for memory. And having a deeper look at the CPU, yeah, we kind of already talked about everything about it. But we can do a benchmark to see what it compares to. A single core of 145 and a multi-core of 279. Let's see what that lands. Yep, just a little bit of scrolling. Hey, that's it! In single core, we're about 40 points less than an i3 6th generation. Maybe multi-core is better, as we only have 2 cores. So a Core 2 Duo is better than the CPU. Okay, let's just play some games, maybe this will, I don't know, do something. Because throwing this laptop at a wall isn't doing that much. So first up is Plants vs Zombies. Yep, what can I say? That is a zombie, and that is a plant. Okay, let's do some more demanding games, such as a game that's 3D and came out about 15 years ago, which is Fallout New Vegas. I would have modded this game because it's just better, but I'm lazy, so anyways, make everything to the lowest. And yes, I will use the laptop screen res, which is 720p, just to give this laptop a fighting chance. Wow, we're getting like 30 to 40 FPS, and sometimes even 60? But that's when we're looking at a wall. So what about outside? That isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Still about 30 to sometimes 60 FPS, but for a very basic gunfight, it was dipping down to like 25 FPS. Probably with more assets and just more stuff happening, I just wonder how the FPS would be affected by that. But still, it's very impressive. Yes, the game looks pretty bad, but like, look at the laptop! Team Fortress 2. So I'm using a config here. It's a low preset from master config. I'm just using it because I want to give this laptop a fighting chance. So it's not great. Can be like 100 FPS when absolutely nothing is happening, but sometimes it can be like 40 to 50 in a basic fight, or down to 30 in like a more demanding fight. With a 12-minute demo I recorded, it had about an average of 57 FPS, which sounds good, but there's a lot of time of me just like looking at nothing and getting over 100 FPS, so it is kind of a flawed number. But hey, it's still playable. I've played worse. Like for the last game here, GTA 5. So I've been running all the games from a USB SSD because the 128GB SSD in here, because, you know, it's like easier and the game's like, what, 40 times bigger than the drive? And you may be wondering why I told you this. Yep, the loading times. It freezes as well. I thought I had like a broken install or something, but no, you need to wait over 5 minutes just to load into the main menu, and another 10 minutes to load the benchmark. And don't mind the mod menu, I forgot I had this installed. Look at everything except that. Yeah, it's not loading, but hey, it does make the FPS kinda good. But every time I tried the benchmark, this happened. Okay, let's just try story mode then. So the story mode is getting less than 10 FPS. That's not good. This is also using a config I found on the internet. 800 by 600p. That's not good. I tried everything I could think of, because I swear I've played this game before and it was better than just 10 FPS. Some things I did try were using a DRM free copy of the game, because you know, maybe DRM is doing something? Nope. Trying an older version of the game? Nope. I tried so many things and it just nothing works. So what else could we do with this laptop? Oh yeah, that's a thing. So what Linux distro should I use? Maybe Arch because it's Arch, by the way. Debian because it's Debian, by the way. I was gonna use Puppy Linux, but the installer was way too complex for me and I'm an idiot. Yes, I have installed Arch without using the Arch installer. Thanks for asking. So which distro will I use? I'm gonna try an Arch-based distro because why not? It's Cache OS. It's meant to be good for gaming, which means it's good for us. Well, booting into it, we're using KDE. Well, let's try the installer. Oh, we need internet. Well, that's Z. Oh, it seems we don't have a network driver. Well, I do have a Wi-Fi dongle here. I'll use this. But after that, we'll install the drivers. But why is this driver not included by default? I'm pretty sure it's because the Broadcom network chip in here is proprietary, so many distros don't really want proprietary drivers in there. Well, let's just try and install it. Yep, Grub, it's the only bootloader I've used before. And for the desktop environment, I'll use XFCE4, which is not the lightest desktop environment. I think LXDE is slightly lighter, but it doesn't really matter. We could have even used KDE, so yep, installing. This took over 40 minutes. I thought it was broken, so I did it twice. Nope, it just takes 40 minutes. But anyways, we have Cache OS. Let's install Brave and see basic web browsing. It seems to be faster than Windows. Okay, let's do 4K YouTube. Damn it! This 13-year-old laptop made for schools with a 720p panel can't run 4K VP09 video? So bad! I did try to use MPV because, I don't know, and it did worse somehow. It defaulted to AV1. Let's do gaming. So what I wanted to do here is to use the SSD here. I had 2 partitions on it, one with NTFS and one with ext4. Why? For some reason Steam doesn't like using NTFS drives while using Proton. I think it's something about permissions, Anyways, so for some reason CachyOS makes all the drives read-only except root. Why? There's no reason for doing this. Maybe if you have to mount the drive yourself, because it's some type of safety, but CachyOS mounts it by default, so why do I need to give myself permission to read and write a drive that I mounted myself? I thought CachyOS was a beginner distro. Why is it like this? Any other Debian-based distro wouldn't do this. Why am I getting so mad at a Linux distro? Well, I figured it out. I didn't use the drive. I just used the internal drive. So first is Plants vs Zombies. Yeah, I guess. Well, let's do a Linux native game then. Team Fortress 2. So, what? Vulkan isn't working. More issues for me. Wow. So it just turns out this iGPU doesn't have all the Vulkan instructions. But lucky for us, there's a legacy version that uses OpenGL. Is there a button that goes back to Windows? Oh, this may not be a good comparison with Windows. Yeah, this is terrible frames. Sometimes down to 20 when little things are happening. And with doing a time demo, you have a decrease of about 20%. That's like a decrease of 20%! Well, maybe Fallout New Vegas would be better. Because maybe it's CPU limited and we're using less CPU. Let's run. Hello? Oh yeah, Vulkan instructions. So how could we fix this? We could use OpenGL again, but I want to use the CachyOS Proton version, which is simpler to install. Proton-CachyOS. Now we put all the stuff into the launcher options. Proton for old devices is another project that ports Proton to an older version of Vulkan, so older GPUs can use Proton. That's like us! Let's boot the game. That looks terrible. This looks like an FPS of less than 10. Why does it say we're getting 10 FPS? This cannot be 10 FPS. It looks like 1 frame per second, which would be 1 FPS, not 10 FPS. At least you can kill Easy Pete though. Well, we could talk about GTA 5, but it barely ran on Windows. I'm good, alright? And we can barely run Fallout on Linux. So yeah, no thanks. Wow, that was fun. Great! This laptop can show us the power of a Celeron, which is little power, but still power. So, what about Windows and Linux? Which one's better for the computer? Wait, that's a bad question, as the answer is binary. Yes or no. It's nuanced. Yes, I know it's scary, alright? But for web browsing, maybe watching YouTube, emails, reading documents, I think Linux just takes the cake. Because it doesn't come with like an antivirus that slows the system down or system updates in the background, and it's just generally lighter. But if you want to game on this for some reason, sure, use Windows, it gives better performance. But now, what do I think about the laptop? It's not good, it's using a terrible CPU, a 720p panel, and there's one more reason why I hate this laptop. It's because of those stupid rubber corners. Look at them! They don't even look good! Wow, good one on that.